what's up? Just Darren here, Question Period Canada. How are you today? We've got some stuff that you need to see. The Freedom Convoy, where they invoked the Emergency Act and froze people's bank accounts and did a whole bunch of other illegal activities. It's been decided they were illegal. And now Chrystia Freeland and Arif Virani are telling people that they did the right thing and that the judgment was incorrect, and they respectfully are going to be appealing the decision. These liberals, man, they won't take no for an answer. They're going to at the next election. Everybody's going to say no. Let's check it out. Chrystia Freeland does not like telling the truth, and she does not like being put on the spot. We know she doesn't like reporters. Let's take a peek at her double talk or double speak, distracting, dividing Canadians, and denying justice.
So we are aware of the court decision. We have discussed it with the Prime Minister, with cabinet colleagues, with senior federal government officials and experts. We respect very much Canada's independent judiciary. However, we do not agree with this decision, and respectfully, we will be appealing it. I would just like to take a moment to remind Canadians of how serious the situation was in our country when we took that decision. The public safety of Canadians was under threat.
Remember this? This will give you an idea of what Chrystia the Witch Freeland, Wicked Witch of the North, thinks is a major threat. David Menzies, come on, he's a harmless reporter.
Ms. Freeland, how come the IRGC is not a terrorist group? Why is your government supporting Islamo-nationalism? What? Excuse me. What are you?
Our national security, which includes our national economic security, was under threat. It was a hard decision to take. We took it very seriously after a lot of hard work, after a lot of careful deliberation. We were convinced at the time, I was convinced at the time, it was the right thing to do. It was the necessary thing to do. I remain, and we remain, convinced of that. And I'll now turn it over to my colleague, the Minister of Justice, and then we'll hear from my colleague, the Minister of Public Safety. Arif, over to you.
Thank you. In case people aren't familiar with Arif Virani, our Attorney General, Minister of Justice, he's trash. We've made videos on him before. Let's take just a quick look at one of those, just so you have an idea of how he talks, how fake he is.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to food security, we always have to remember that the breadbasket of the world is a country called Ukraine. And I'm going to use the title of that country deliberately, because when you can't...
Order. So he is a piece of dirt, but let's see him when he's in sort of a different environment. He's still full of it.
Public safety. Arif, over to you.
Thank you, Chrystia. Just to build on what Minister Freeland was mentioning, the court decision, we've received the judgment. We've done a preliminary review of the judgment. The judgment finds, in certain respects, that the decisions of the government were valid and were within constitutional parameters. In other respects, it finds it was not. Upon reviewing that decision, we obviously reiterate the respect for the judicial process that Minister Freeland has just mentioned. But a fundamental aspect of the judicial process is also proceeding on an appeal. And after that consultation with the Prime Minister, with cabinet colleagues, we've taken the decision that we will be proceeding on an appeal, as is within our rights within the judicial system.
I'm going to coin a term now for the Liberals. They're not just distracting and dividing Canadians. They're denying, distracting, and dividing Canadians. Our Attorney General right there, proof is in the pudding. Do you trust that guy? Do you believe a word?
Dominic LeBlanc. So I'll turn to Minister LeBlanc to just outline where we were 2 years ago when the significant decision to protect Canadians was taken by the Government of Canada. Dominic?
Dominic LeBlanc is another like sweat bag of lies, full of it. You should see him in the House of Commons. He's useless. That's what I think, useless. Most of these Liberal cabinet ministers are. Anyhow, let's listen to the crap that he has to say.
So just to add to what my colleague said, I think it's important to remember the context almost 2 years ago today, those weeks in late January and February 2 years ago, the public safety and the national security context. I was in Ottawa during those weeks, as were my colleagues. I participated in the cabinet discussions. We were updated by senior officials about the risks of copycat incidents at other border crossings. I spoke to premiers from British Columbia to Nova Scotia about risks to their community safety. We saw border crossings and the damage to the Canadian economy, thousands of jobs put at risk. We spoke with the Premier of Ontario and the Government of Ontario that supported the invocation of the Emergencies Act 2 years ago. I think that's an important moment. I think it's also important to consider the government was given information with respect to the disruption at the border crossing in Coutts, Alberta. It's not banal when the security services tell you that they found 2 pipe bombs and 36,000 rounds of munition and ended up laying criminal charges as serious as conspiracy to commit murder and assaulting peace officers. So the context is important. I think it's also important to note that the House of Commons ratified the decision to invoke. But as my colleague said, the judicial system also includes appeal mechanisms, and the government's made that decision. But I certainly, as a minister who participated in those discussions and who spoke to premiers across the country, am very satisfied that we made a reasonable decision, and will now let the appeal courts consider the filings from my colleagues.
If I know how much the Liberal cabinet ministers, these 3 amigos, 3 musketeers, 3 losers, how much they detest the media. But now they've got to face the media, and the media doesn't like them either. It comes through in the questions. But those answers, they really stink.
The decision seems to single out some of your choices on freezing bank accounts and credit cards as being part of the reason where it's unreasonable in terms of the measures taken by the government. You defended those when you announced them at the time. Do you have any regrets on taking that measure in the light of this decision? Would you have done it differently based on what we've seen from the federal court today?
As I said in my opening remarks, we faced, as a country and as a government, an incredibly serious threat. A threat to the public safety of many Canadians, a threat to our national security, including our national economic security. We acted to secure and protect Canada and to secure and protect the national interest. It was not an easy time. These were not easy decisions. In making our decisions and choosing to act, we worked very, very hard with all levels of government, and we were very mindful of acting in such a way that the safety, the physical safety of all Canadians involved would be preserved. I don't want to minimize the gravity of the actions we took. Neither do I want to minimize the gravity of the threat Canada faced. And to your question,
Ms. Freeland, how come the IRGC is not a terrorist group? Why is your government supporting Islamo-Nazis? What? Excuse me. What are you?
I was certain, after a lot of deliberation with colleagues and many others, that we took the right decision. I was certain at the time. I was certain when I testified before Rouleau, and I remain certain today. Thank you.
They say there are some witches that can take one word and turn it into another with magic spells, like taking the word certain, 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 and have it mean correct, proper, and right. Chrystia is doing that right here, trying to fool, distract, divide, deny Canadians.
Serious threats. The court didn't just take issue with the fact that you acted, it took issue with how you acted and how you wrote the regulations you did, including in that PCO memo. There's a warning that the decisions you're taking and how you're writing them were open to constitutional challenge. Looking back, was there a necessary steps you had to take to minimize the constitutional impact of these regulations, and did you do a good job of respecting Canadian civil liberties in writing those regulations? Last question.
Look, I truly...
When you start answering a question with look, that's not a good take for people to see. She's very defensive and she's unaware of herself. She's not good at this, guys. She's not a good liar. She just does it a lot.
Do not want to minimize the fact that we took these decisions with a heavy heart.
Do black hearts weigh more than regular hearts? That would explain her statement.
This was not a situation we wanted to find ourselves in, and these were not actions we took with any satisfaction or relish. This was, however, and I want people to remember that, an extremely tense time. The safety of individual Canadians was under real threat, as Minister LeBlanc has pointed out. Our national security was under real threat, our national security including our economic security. That was the reality of that moment. We explored many, many avenues to bring this to an end. This was an option of the last resort. We believed at the time that...
And now she's changing her word to believe. Just a moment ago, she was saying certain, certain, certain. Now she's saying we believed. She's full of it.
It was absolutely necessary for us to act, and for us to act in a way that minimized the physical danger to all Canadians. That was really important to us. We believed we were doing something necessary and something legal at the time. That was our belief then. That was our belief as we testified at length to Chief Justice Rouleau. That continues to be my belief today. As our Minister of Justice has said, we will, confident in that belief, be appealing this decision. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so then the three musketeers, three liberal liars, whatever, they scuttle off, waddle away like cowards and fools. It's embarrassing. Just is. So that's the situation. There is no justice for Canadians, even when the Liberals are shown that they're wrong. They'll just deny it. That's what they do. They appeal. It's disgusting, kind of. It's very frustrating. No wonder I'm a libertarian. Like and subscribe. We're having fun with Canadian politics best we can. I'm Aaron, Question Period Canada. We'll catch you next video. Thank you for watching. Stay warm. Try to have something healthy to eat.